We live in a world of media narratives. Ethereum has spent the last couple of years talking up its highly anticipated merge, essentially a software upgrade. This new version of ETH is hinged on a consensus mechanism shift from proof of work to proof of stake. And if you don't quite understand what that means, keep watching this show to understand its implications. Today's guest, Reeve Collins, is the former CEO of Tether and current co-founder of Smart Media Technologies. He's a major player in the cryptocurrency space who will help us gain a complex view of the upcoming merge. Reeve, welcome to the Daily Drop.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Look, everybody's talking about the merge, and let's start at the beginning with Ethereum. So how did Ethereum get so popular?
Well, back in 2014, it finally, they did a crowd sale. And if you really rewind a little bit, that was a very uncommon way to raise money. They were one of the first real ICOs. And the price was around 30 cents when they rolled it out. And so a lot of people believed in Vitalik's vision of creating a smart contract or a computer in the cloud. He was going to create a Turing complete computer that would be able to do complex transactions. Prior to that, there was the blockchain, which kind of revolutionized the way transactions were done. However, the Bitcoin blockchain could only confirm a transaction, but a smart contract can do complex ones, which have led us to where we're at today with all of these innovations on top of the blockchain. So that was the concept. They did the crowd sale in 2014. It took about a year for them to actually deliver the product, but they've been iterating on since then. However, now, 7 or 8 years later, we're finally to the first real major upgrade that everybody's been talking about.
So can you actually explain what is the upgrade? What is the merge?
Yeah. Well, the reason why everyone's talking about it, why this upgrade is so important, because as I said, it started out at 30 cents, and now today's the price, is around $1,500, and it fluctuates quite a bit every day. But when any type of asset skyrockets that much and so much wealth is created, a lot of people become interested. And also the technology is greatly changing the way the world does business. And so you've heard about how slow the transactions are and how expensive they are with Ethereum. Well, the merge is laying the groundwork to improve that, but it's going to do it in sections. And this very first upgrade to Ethereum that's happening somewhere around midnight tonight, Eastern time, lays the foundation for them to switch from proof of work to proof of stake, which really means it reduces the energy consumption. So they believe that it'll be over a 99.5% reduction in energy consumption after this upgrade.
Amazing. And look, I definitely want to get more into the implications of the merge and the various sort of iterations of what essentially is now a 5-part merge for the future. Yeah. But let's focus a little bit more on Ethereum. We got 2 more minutes. I want to start with how Ethereum got here, right? And so now it has this sort of status as the most popular blockchain. But is this sustainable? Can Ethereum sustain this type of success?
Absolutely. And it got the status because it was the first to market to create a smart contract blockchain. Now, there's been some Ethereum killers out there trying to improve the speed of the transactions and the cost, such as Cardano, Solana, Polkadot, and my favorite, Casper. But those all have found a place. But ultimately, the majority of developers build on Ethereum, and it has the biggest community. And that community, even though these transactions are very expensive and sometimes slow, still is growing, and there's so much belief in it. So this upgrade is going to give that community much more tools. So Ethereum really can be the foundation for the future of Web3 and the foundation for how a lot of transactions are done on blockchains.
Well, look, speaking of community, in a way, it's a community of competitors. Do you think there are any realistic competitors to challenge Ethereum's dominance? I mean, right now, we've got over 20,000 official cryptocurrencies.
Yes. That's an interesting question because the majority of the competitors are layer 2. So they're all blockchains or technologies that are built on top of Ethereum in order to increase the speed of transactions and reduce the cost of those transactions. However, when Ethereum completes its upgrade to Ethereum 2, to ETH2, which is going to take well over a year, I believe that it's going to be very difficult for anyone to compete with it specifically. When I was talking about community, I meant the developers, the developer community on top of Ethereum, building on Solidity. creating all of these applications. There's tens of thousands of developers around the world, and it's hard to replace that type of momentum and belief and brain power into building some successful applications on top of a protocol layer.
Definitely. So, look, speaking of momentum, you've got the momentum, but I'm going to kill it because we're going to go to break, but we're going to go back on the Daily Drop. Welcome back to the Daily Drop. Okay, so Reeve, I want to get a little bit critical, just because I really want to understand the merge for our audience here, right? Because let's be honest too, the merge has been delayed multiple times. I mean, it was originally promised a couple of years ago. Like, is this something that we should be suspicious over?
No, not at all. If you know about technology roadmaps and how complicated it is to release any successful technology, there's always delays and typically lots of bugs. And so depending on the importance of the technology, they'll delay it to ensure there are zero bugs. So they actually released a side chain they released the Beacon chain a few years ago in 2020 and have been testing it significantly. And so finally, after years of testing, they're ready to merge the two and switch from proof of work to proof of stake. The reason why I say it's not a challenge that it's delayed is mainly because the analogies being used about how complicated this is span from take a car driving down the highway at full speed and try to swap out the gas-powered engine for an electrical engine. Or you can say a jet plane filled with passengers swapping the engines mid-flight, or even a rocket ship going to Mars. Like, how do you swap out that engine without screwing up anything in that mission? And that's what they're doing. That's why this is touted as one of the biggest accomplishments in blockchain, because the level of sophistication and the delicate balance they need to do to ensure that any of these transactions are not lost and the tens of billions of dollars of value that goes through Ethereum per day is not disrupted is really, really challenging. So that's why it gets delayed, to ensure the best possible outcome.
Reeve, I got to say, like, you're like such an expert at taking complex ideas and distilling them down into very simple terms that you can communicate to an audience, which I think is the most important skill in the space. So I just want to give you that compliment. But now I'm going to give you another challenge, just because I want to know. So, like, the merge is really only 20% of what was originally promised, right? And then they did this thing where all the things that were supposed to happen at the same time, they've kind of divided into 5, and then they have these rhyming names like the splurge and the purge, all these things, right? So do you think that this is a bit of a cop-out? I know that's a bold question, but it just seems like a bit of a marketing narrative. If instead of having all the things happen at the same time, we're only doing 1/5 of them, it just seems like a little bit sketchy, you know what I mean?
Well, back to what I was saying about the car and swapping from a gas engine to an electric engine mid-trip, right, when you're at full speed. And so that's why they've broken it up into the merge, the verge, the splurge, the purge, 5 different rhyming names that are going to each make Ethereum better. But the big misconception today is that this merge is going to make Ethereum faster and transactions cheaper. It will not. It lays the foundation to do that. But ultimately, the more transactions, the throughput moving from 13 transactions per second to over 100,000 transactions per second, that will come in about 6 months when they introduce sharding. But this upgrade, the merge, is just about moving from proof of work to proof of stake. But before I go a little deeper, I actually want to give you another bit of an analogy. Think about the internet. You've heard of TCP/IP, HTTP, and FTP, but no one really knows what those are. The average person, you might even know what the words mean, but you don't know how those protocols work. And you don't care. Why not? Because no one's made money on that protocol layer. The only place you make money is in the websites, the application layer. So when the internet came out, everyone got very excited about the brand new websites, the search engines, Yahoo, AltaVista, AOL. Back in the day when it first came out, those were these multi-million, billion-dollar companies. And that's where the excitement was. In the blockchain layer, it's been around 10 years. We haven't even really gotten to the application layer. The application layer is just becoming upon us through DeFi and these different applications of these protocols. But the reason why this is important is because people are trying to understand the plumbing. Like, they're trying to understand the protocol layer, because in the blockchain world, people are making a lot of money on those protocol layers, where in the internet, no one made any money on FTP or HTTP or the different protocols there. So it's really important to understand that you're trying to, as an average person, trying to understand very complex technology applications just because that's where money is being made, not in the application layer. I hope that resonates where when people are concerned that I don't get blockchain. Well, you probably don't get FTP or HTTP either, but you don't need to. You want to get blockchain because there's potential to make lots of money, so people are excited about it. So just don't forget that it's very complex. And so when people talk about the merge and movement of proof of work to proof of stake and it doesn't really sink in, it's okay. What you really need to know or hope for is that it works. Back to your question of why did they break it up into 5 parts is because they are going to do their best to ensure that it works. So they can't do it all at once.
Okay, Reeve, we're going to go to break. But again, please come back because you really have this way of explaining all the moving parts in a simple way that anybody can understand. It's incredibly valuable. And we're going to be back from the break on the Daily Drop. Welcome back to the Daily Drop. Okay, so Reeve, you were talking about scaling before, and like all of us in the space too. Like this is the thing that we really want to see. So yes, obviously the merge is setting Ethereum up to get into the scaling part of it later. The sharding. This is one of the most pressing issues. So what do we do? Like, what can we expect in terms of how is that going to happen?
Well, the big misconception is after the merge that the transaction speeds are going to increase and that the prices are going to go down. And so I don't want people to be disappointed when they wake up tomorrow and nothing changes. So the merge for the average user isn't going to have much of an impact. And we have a little concern about the buy the news, sell the event. And so the price has been going up, and there potentially could be a dip because tomorrow when people wake up and they see there's no difference, then they're like, oh, well, it failed. And so we're dumping the stock and it will go, or the token, and it will go down. However, it's not supposed to make a difference. That actually means it's successful, that the transactions are still going through. So back to scaling, that will be in about 6 months when they do the next release, when they do this next update called sharding, which makes it much more manageable bytes. And as I stated,
can you explain sharding? Can you explain sharding for our audience?
It's taking this database and basically breaking it up in horizontal chunks. And so to simplify it, it just makes it much more manageable. And if there's small changes, you don't have to change the entire database. You don't have to rewrite the whole thing, because that's what makes it 13 transactions per second versus well over 100,000 transactions per second. So imagine you only have to update the last 5% of this database instead of the entire database every single time.
Okay, well, look, let me ask you a question, right? So as Ethereum scales, and look, the reason it's going to scale for our audience is more and more people are going to use Ethereum, and it's the most popular blockchain. The gas fees are so high because essentially we need more lanes of traffic, right? So it has to scale because so many people want to get on that highway. But I guess my question is, as Ethereum does scale, is it trying to achieve too much, right? I mean, they're essentially attempting to be and remain the technical standard for the entire Web3 ecosystem. Is that a fair point?
It is a fair point. And the beauty of a community and this community ecosystem is that other companies build on top of it. So they will, I believe, will be the foundation of that Web3 ecosystem, but it doesn't mean that the layer 2s that we mentioned earlier, like Casper and Polkadot and Cardano, et cetera.
Can we pause for 1 second? Can you actually explain layer 2s for our audience? Sort of keep stopping, because I know that there's people who they want to follow along, but sometimes the technical lingo gets to them. But I know layer 2s are such an important part of scaling.
Absolutely. So as you mentioned, as we all know, Ethereum at the moment is slow and expensive. So layer 2s, so let's call that layer 1. It's the foundational layer. These other companies popped up on top of Ethereum to solve that problem. So now you can use called Polkadot, for instance, and you can have much faster transactions that are almost free. So you can have instant free transactions, but they're still compatible with Ethereum. And so a lot of people have poured into Cardano and Solana and these layer 2s to build their applications on it because they weren't ready to wait. They can't wait for Ethereum to be fast and cheap. So they're using other technologies built on top of Ethereum to deliver them that speed and inexpensive transaction nature. But when Ethereum gets there, when Ethereum at the base layer is able to offer those levels of speed and cheap transactions, then it'll be easier for developers to build on top of Ethereum. But when you asked, does that mean Ethereum is doing too much because it wants to be the foundation for everything? I don't believe so, because those Other companies are not going to disappear. They're going to shift their model and they're going to fill in the gaps that Ethereum didn't deliver on. And so overall, for an end user, it doesn't really matter. You don't care today how your email gets from point A to point B. All you care is that it gets there. So in the future, you might go across 5 different blockchains. There might be an application where you play this game or do some sort of financial instrument. And in the background, it goes through 5 blockchains. It takes a bunch of different tokens to get there. But you don't care because all you wanted to do is whatever that application was offering. And so it's really going to become hidden in the future.
Okay, we only have about 40 seconds, so we'll just try to keep this brief. But do you think that because ETH is so big, that it could essentially be broken up into pieces and competitors could swoop in and essentially dominate those pieces?
Well, back to the technology being the foundational layer, and I believe a lot of those competitors are going to build on top of it. That doesn't mean there aren't a lot of other layer 1, like base layer blockchains coming out to compete with Ethereum, but it's very hard to build that community of developers, the tens of thousands of developers that build in Solidity and on top of Ethereum.
Let's pause there. We're going to go to break. Dude, you're an icon. It's awesome. We'll get more of you. Welcome back to the Daily Drop. Look, we're having a great convo here. So, look, obviously, we're not going to be able to analyze every single aspect of the merge and the purge and the verge and the splurge and the gamerge. I don't know, there's so many urges. But in summation, do you believe that this first part, the merge, is this tech history in the making, or I'm going to challenge you a little bit, or simply a manufactured media narrative for an industry badly in need of good news?
It's definitely tech history in the making, because they truly are doing something equivalent of swapping out that engine, moving from a gas engine to an electric engine. They're reducing the power consumption by over 99% of the Ethereum blockchain. And so you've heard a lot of pushback on NFTs, how they take too much energy, and all these Bitcoin transactions taking too much energy. This is going to solve that. And it lays the foundation to solve the problem of scaling and the cost of transactions. So it's definitely history in the making.
Okay, well, I accept this, but now I guess I want to know, okay, so we've got this history, this is the foundation, and what's the future? Like, what is a realistic forecast for the next 2-3 years of the Ethereum ecosystem?
The future is not about the plumbing. That's what I was trying to allude to earlier. The future is about the applications built on top of it, about an entire new internet being built on top of blockchain technology, about the delivery of Web3, the promise of Web3 reaching the masses. You guys have all heard about it, but you've yet to experience it. Very soon, Web3 will be upon us. What does that mean for you? It means your browsing experience could become much more profitable at the end of the day. You will earn cryptocurrencies. You will receive NFTs for what you do today on the web. And in the future, it will actually bring you some real world value.
And for the larger cryptocurrency ecosystem, right? Because again, Ethereum is one of over 20,000 now, and it's going to keep going. Who knows, hundreds of thousands maybe in the future. How important is Ethereum's success to like the broader cryptocurrency ecosystem?
Well, what's important is the success of the technology. Is it specifically Ethereum or even Bitcoin or any of those other 20,000? It doesn't matter. That's just the prices. What matters is delivering on the promise of changing how the world does business, delivering on the promise of making transactions much more efficient, of global inclusion, of including anyone in the world with an internet to better financial services, transactional services, all sorts of services that they weren't able to do before. When you hear about play to earn, where people are playing games to earn crypto, and there'll be lots of other ways to earn money, but your time spent on the web that was never possible before, that's what's important. It's not important which token wins, just that the technology at the end of the day delivers on the promise to create a better world for all of us.
Okay, and look, I agree 100%. Let's talk about the merge just a little bit in terms of analysis. How can we gauge whether or not the merge, which is going to happen like in the next 24 hours, how can we determine whether or not it's widely perceived as a success or a failure?
Well, right off the bat, they'll be able to tell if it's technically successful because it will start producing blocks right away. When it moves to proof of stake, it will create a block of transactions every 12 seconds. And so it'll be really easy to monitor if that works. The second piece is participation. So they need a lot of people to stake their Ethereum to confirm these transactions, to become validators in this network. Whereas before, people utilized lots of compute power to confirm the transactions. So they want to have lots of participation. And then thirdly, they need finalization. So in proof of stake, once the transactions are written to the ledger, it takes another minute for the technology to finalize it. So it makes it so you cannot edit it. So it's in the permanent record. So those three pieces, the block, participation, and finalization, is really how they're going to determine if it's successful or not. But the past 2 years of tests really indicate that this should be a successful merge.
Yeah, so look, we only have 30 seconds, real quick. You think it's going to be an A+?
I believe so, absolutely. And if not, it's a bump in the road, and they'll overcome whatever issue that does arise.
Reeve, you're amazing. Oh my God, round of applause for Reeve. Please come back. I really want to get to know you more and what you're doing, but I appreciate you shedding some light on the merge, and I'm just happy you came.
Absolutely, thank you.
Let me be clear. I'm a fan of Ethereum. I want the merge to succeed, even to thrive. But I want us to be honest about what the merge really is and what a realistic set of expectations is for this part of ETH's now 5-part upgrade. But what we can all agree on, Ethereum is a dominant player in the larger blockchain ecosystem, and the decisions made by Vitalik AI will influence the broader community for years to come. We'll see you next time. Daily Drop.